Hey there friends, and welcome back to Sunset Gardens. Fun fact, I gotta stop deleting footage I just recorded, man. I don't know why I did it, but I recorded this video, stopped recording, and then emptied some space on my hard disk and deleted the video. So hey, welcome back also me to Sunset Gardens. As you can tell, there's some stuff in the distance, you can already tell, but let's get back into it for those who want to know. Sunset Gardens, what you've already seen, very much hinges on the bridge between a old zoo and a modern zoo. It was built with the idea in mind that a sort of a mogul, a tycoon with very poor taste in general, but a lot of money, bought an old estate built with somewhere 16th, 17th century. Later on became a zoo in the 19th century, and that the old heart of the zoo was kept intact and slightly modernized, but that the more modern parts of the zoo will have been added on later. So the beginning of the zoo was very much built with that in mind. We have this modern entrance, as you can see, and then this promenade, which is something I really wanted to do from the very beginning. This very classic, what in my mind is classic European zoo style, with these various paths, and to the left and the right, these typical old collection deer habitats here, and to the other, at the other end, camels and more deer, with this classic shape of a square vibe with it's sort of sloping down here. You've seen this, but as you can tell, some stuff has happened. So let's talk about what's new here. First of all, let's look at this big boy over here and let's give it some sunlight, what it deserves. This building is, first of all, it's a staff building. This holds a lot of these staff facilities, but it's also important to note that there is no interior. Don't go looking for it, and I'm also really annoyed by the guests really walking on the lawn here. I'll tell you why in a bit. But this building is actually based on a real-life building, which I will show you here. It is called Ham House. It is a 17th century house set close to London. And when I say close to London, I'm meaning to say for a foreigner that's close to London, probably someone from the UK would say, no, it's not close to London, it's close to Ham, south of Richmond, but for me, London is still the epicenter of what I know about England. But yeah, it is based on that, not a true reproduction, but if you check out the pictures, you'll clearly see that the vibe is very much that. And the idea is that this was built somewhere as well in the the 17th century, probably modernized later on, and that on the grounds of this estate, a zoo was built somewhere in the late 1800s, and that zoo was then probably like 100 years later purchased by this new owner, and developed the lands further, built around the lake and everything. But this has been in the zoo since the very beginning, and even before that. So yeah, I had a lot of fun building with the classic style, going back to a lot of these base game pieces, and as someone who lives in Europe and has seen this architectural style all over in zoos and beyond, it was just fun to try and build with this. At the other end, you have this empty plot of land. There's some crazy building going to be here. It's probably going to take a lot of time and a lot of headspace in my mind, so it's not going to be built in a very swift fashion, I will say. I will show you the picture. It's going to be loosely based, part of it, on the aquarium of Paradisa, which is also an older building that has gotten a facelift and a new use. But it's going to have a little extension to it. It's going to sort of move here and then here to connect with this path, and might just either just have a big aquarium inside, and or an aquarium and museum space for dinosaur skeletons or nocturnal animals, something like it. So the inside will have actually been hollowed out, none of the actual architecture from the past, but just a modern interior. Right, almost forgot to mention why it is that guests are walking on the lawn and why I need to fix it. This mowed lawn look is actually accomplished with a very simple, straightforward trick. It is simply the natural grass paint, the terrain paint of the grass, this one, and it is using the natural grass path, which was added in some update, I believe. And ironically, the natural grass path does not have the same color as actual grass in, the temperate biome. So just by making these little straight paths across at these 4-meter intervals, it creates this mowed lawn look. Of course, when you do that, you need to put these little sort of security barriers in here. Where are they? I'll do that later, but you do need to make sure your guests actually stay off the lawn. God damn it. Right? I should place some signs. I should actually place a sign here that you shouldn't be able to walk on the lawn. But anyway, I first saw this used in a ZSH Plays video, but I also believe that he said he didn't come up with it, so I cannot fully credit them with this, but at least I didn't come up with this myself. So there you go. I definitely wanted to throw that in the video as well. So this will have sort of a twin building at the other end to go with it, but this is the big draw for the moment. I knew from the beginning that Sunset Gardens needed to have this little thing, a classic promenade with habitats to the left and right, leading up to this plaza that you can see right over here. This is very much meant to evoke why zoos were built back in the 1800s, in Europe. Again, Europe is the history that I'm familiar with, so I'll continue to say Europe in cases like this. The zoo was a place meant to be visited by people with money, the privileged, and it was a place to hang out, socialize, make contacts, show off your new outfits. It was a garden first and foremost, a luxury space where you could also check out animals from all over the world. And these animals, in case you aren't aware, were just thrown together in very small confined spaces, lined up all together in these, very, very small, unsanitary, and just, pretty much abusive practices. And the zoo reflects that history, is going to reflect that history for the most part, but I'm going to try and add these modern touches to it. For example, habitats that might have housed, for example, big carnivores like before, might now house small herbivores, or rather monkeys, or maybe birds. And even the birds probably have more space than before by connecting multiple habitats into one. It's a whole thing. I'm going to have to work on it. But this plaza, for the most part, is something I had a lot of fun putting together. It has this raised terrace with a restaurant here, which my guests really loved to use in the beginning, and now they've started to ignore it. We'll see how it evolves. But you can overlook much of what's already there, but in the end, it will obviously overlook the whole zoo, and will have a much grander atmosphere as well. And around it, I had a lot of fun playing around with this classic style of architecture, building these funky little buildings, some of them realistic, some of them not. I imagine that some of these might actually not have been built in the, early days of the zoo, but will have been added later on in the same style. These are the restrooms with this needlessly elaborate design. Right over here is, I believe, some donuts and fries in this cute little, funky little getup. And right over here is the drinks that you can purchase here in another one of these little buildings. So this plaza has come together very well. It might see some changes, some updates. I'll have to deal with this glitchy Z fighting that you see here. But it might get some light fixtures, some more planting, some more detailing, We'll see. But for the most part, this concept is ready. It will have, as I said, to the left a sort of a wing between parentheses of this 18th century zoo. I'm still not too sure if I want to put the buildings, the habitats, on this side or on this side, obscuring the lake. I'm not too sure. I'll have to think on that. Same at the other end. But also at this end, you'll get all of this is still work in progress. Before we move on, you've probably seen this, so let's talk about it. This is the lake. This is the part of the zoo that will have more, while this is based on stuff like Antwerp Zoo, artists in Amsterdam, London Zoo, Berlin Zoo, places that I've visited, Vienna Zoo, Prague Zoo. Is there a zoo in Vienna, or am I confusing things? Anyway, this is going to be the more Paradisa inspired part of the zoo, meaning more themed, more welcoming to guests and animals, while also having this ambition that isn't always matched by reality, if you know what I mean. If you know about Paradisa, you might know what I mean. Paradisa has a big budget, big dreams, doesn't always execute things as well as they could/should. But I love that place. It's a wild and chaotic zoo in every sense, and I'm proud to call it, to call myself a Belgian in the same country as one of the coolest zoos in the world. But it does have this lake, and the lake in Paradisa as well is sort of bisected by this path straight across it, and it will have cool trees to the left and the right. Also, one thing I'm going to emulate from Paradisa is that this lake will at times be accessible by the elephants through an elaborate system of paths that can actually cross the guests' paths. It's a whole thing. You'll see it when I eventually get around to it. And yes, this building, let's talk about it. You've seen it already. I've tried to ignore the elephant in the room here. I'll add pictures right here. This is based on another real building, not Ham House this time around, but the Church of the Cambron Abbey, which is actually the site that Paradisa the zoo is built on. An old abbey that was built a long time ago. This is, has a history dating back to the 12th century, if I believe. This building as well has medieval roots, as well as, I believe, a more Baroque later addition. I've made the tower here in my zoo a bit taller and a bit wider, but I believe that I pulled it off rather well. The vibe of it, let's circle it. It makes large use of the Twilight pack with these little gargoyles, these decals showing its ruined state. But I think this side of it clearly is the one that I want to exhibit to the guests most of all. I love the see-through nature of it, making sure that the shadows look cool at all times. And the biggest puzzle piece of this zoo, and something I need to decide very, very quickly, is where do I put this tower? It has been a dream of mine, looking at so many cool creators, both on YouTube and offline off of YouTube, that have this tower, or at least a tower-like structure that the whole of the zoo really refers back to. Like if you're standing here, you can see the tower in between the trees. If you're standing here, the tower is still central to your viewing experience. And I was jealous of that amount of planning, because in Bolo Bolo that planning was absent. I did have cool buildings, but I didn't really provide the sightlines to it. For Sunset Gardens, at least, this building already exists. I need to think carefully about where to put it. At the very least, you'll agree with me, it needs to be at this side of the lake, right? It needs to be across from the lake. But where do I put it? Off to the side, like I did here, centrally, like I did here. I think this would kind of ruin the reveal of this area of the zoo. In between bushes to the, a little forest here. I'm not sure, but it needs to be decided soon so I can get around to making, actual sightlines in the zoo work with it. But already the way I'm already quite used to it being over there. But it does look pretty sweet wherever you put it. I was always so eager to have my own little tower in a zoo of mine, and now that I got one, it's like Christmas came early, even though I made it myself. But it just looks so cool. I'm so happy that I spent the hours that I did trying to emulate the real building, because if you're ever wondering how so many people make things look so good as this, honestly, I spend a lot of time wondering that myself, and one of the biggest secrets is have real life examples, like literally to the side of your screen or a picture on your phone or whatever, and just build what you're seeing there. The real world is where you need to get your inspiration from. That, or building, putting for example, a blueprint. For example, let me give you an example. This might be obvious to most of you, but to have a blueprint like this, which is, don't quite know who built it. I downloaded this not to use it, but just to look at it and just think of, how do I use these pieces? Like how do I make something like this come to life? And this is just going to be inspiration for the rest of this zoo, stuff like this. So just download something like this and start building next to it. You don't need to copy it exactly, but just try to get the vibe down and experiment with it. Is just how the big builders do it, and how I've started doing it finally after 1,300 hours of gameplay. So yeah, enough about the tower. As you see, there's still two main things that I need to show you. What's going on over here? What is going on here? Oh, now that I'm looking at it, did I interrupt some secret cult meeting or something? Anyway, yeah, so what I'm going to show you is, I do have some history that I want to share with you. As I said, the estate is sort of 17th century, 18th century. This part of the zoo is a 19th century site that grew into a zoo on this side of the lake, and that was then purchased in something like the 90s or something, and then this part of the zoo will have been added in the 90s. But from that period in time where the zoo was purchased, was growing towards the end of the 20th century, some attempts were made to modernize the zoo, still with the 20th century sensibilities of zoo design. And one thing that they did love building back then was faux rock gardens and putting bears in pits, and that is what I tried to emulate here. Number one, I really stepped up my game in terms of rock work here. I hope you'll agree with me somewhat. Let's see if I can get the lighting to look best. I combined faux rocks with real rocks, with these tree trunk rocks, and I might even, after I recorded this and hopefully not delete it again, continue to build on this and make it look even smoother and refined. So the rock work like this, and the rose bushes actually, and the bamboo will continue to be a theme like this part of the zoo. So without further ado, let's actually enter this artificial cave, which one of the things that makes me happiest here is the scale of things. Bolo Bolo really poisoned my mind in a way that everything needed to be very big. And this isn't very big. This is a normal section of a zoo. And building small is a skill that I have lacked at times. But yeah, just the sense that I'm accomplishing what I set out to do. So I imagine, as you can see, it has the backdrop of this estate actually, but I imagine that this was once just open air, and that you would just rely on the guests not getting into the bear habitat, but then this sort of piano wire was added to still make you feel like you were close to the habitat, but not, couldn't jump into it. And then, as you can tell, a very present sort of steel metal system to keep the bears from climbing out. It's old-fashioned, it's ugly, it's functional, but you wouldn't see this in a modern zoo anymore. At least a modern zoo, an AZA zoo, modern, I'm going to say perhaps something offensive here, but usually you wouldn't see this in, like, I've seen some terrible zoos out there, and but from where I'm around the world, most of them seem pretty fine. But as you continue, you do get this glass viewing, which was probably added later on, and one of the bears is showcasing the habitat here. We do get some sun glare on the glass. Let's see if I can lessen that a bit. But under the drapes here, we can have a rest and check out the vibe here, and it is a vibe, truly. There's no immersion at all. You're not led to believe that you're looking at an actual real world place here. This is very much the old philosophy of zoos being a place to show off architecture as well. But the spectacled bear here does get its little bear pit. It does have access to this section below with this very bare bones climbing frame, but it does spend most of its time just hanging out on the sunlit rocks over here and pooping on them, as you can see. I'll zoom out at the end to showcase it better, but I imagine that at a time this was smaller and sadder, perhaps, who knows, this was the only place they could visit. Who knows? I wouldn't put it past the zoos in the past that this would just be filled with water and that this would be the only area. As someone who's been to Antwerp Zoo a lot, Antwerp Zoo did have some bear habitats that at the time, as a kid, I thought they were stupendous, but looking back at them now, they were, very, very bad. And that was modern Antwerp Zoo. If you look at historical archives of Antwerp Zoo, which I do a lot, they had some terrible habitats. The gorillas, for example, had some really deplorable environments to live in. And another section of this, let's talk about that. That is the artificial temple. I know that a design philosophy in modern zoos is that you shouldn't be able to see guests when you're looking at a habitat, but then again, this part of the zoo was never designed with that in mind, and you can definitely check out guests. That guy even looks like he's waving to them. Check out guests while you're looking at the animals as well, and perhaps even at times those windows are opened, and maybe when there's an open house tour, guests could look at the animals from there. I imagine that happening. So let's go check out that little temple here. This is not finished, as you can tell. It's going to be more of a garden feel, but this equine statues flank the entrance into this faux Greco-Roman temple here, which is just, I love it. It's just sweet, the way the light hits it and everything. And you get this look here at the bears. And I think I kind of love it. Every time I've looked at this habitat in recent times, the bears just spent their time inside. Their shelter is below us, and they, I think they kind of hate their habitat, or I'm just imagining it. But they spent their time inside. So let's, and there we go. There's two of them in here actually. But let's go and check out the habitat now from the builder's perspective, as I like to call it, because I do want to show off the rock work that I put into place here. I am very, very pleased. That should have been a thumbnail picture. Too late. But I'm very, very pleased with the rock work I put into this. And going forward, this is going to be the style that I use. The mixture of rocks is really what does it. Again, I could be, continue to add much more rocks to this, just to add more texture. As you can tell, it's easy to do, but it immediately upgrades the look of everything. So, I could continue to do that, and I probably will, but just the way it looks like from here, it's just a really, really sweet little design, and I'm really, really pleased with it. The way the lights hit it, light hit it, the varied textures and shapes of the rockwork here. Really, really pleased with this. How safe it would truly be from the bear. Could they get out of this? I'm fairly sure that they could escape from this, should they desire to escape. You know, it's at least it's not a concrete bear pit, but it's still a bear pit, and it's still kind of sad. And then the final, you know, surprise, I guess, that I want to show you is also something that needs context. 19th century was a crazy time. My partner studied arts conservation, of the painted art specifically, but she learned a lot about architecture while doing so. And whenever she talks about that, my favorite time in history seems to be the 19th century. People grew obsessed with the classical ages back then, and also the medieval ages, really, if I'm not mistaken. And they just wanted to build modern buildings looking like they were hundreds of years old. And one thing they made back then were these artificial grottos. I'll show you some pictures here. These sort of artificial caves / temple environments. A lot of these are still around, but many of them were just my mind is blanking. A lot of them are gone, a lot of them aren't. There we go. We moved past that. But I'm not ready with this one. I think I want to add even more faux rocks to really up the vibe that this was built out of limestone, but also try to resemble a natural formation. I think I could, if I'm really crazy, could actually cover the entire surface with these little faux rocks. I'm not sure if I have the drive and patience to do that, but I already think it works like this, don't you think? The clear animal vibe here with these various statues here, but I think most of all it's this part, right, with the stalactite, stalagmite, which are, fakes. They're not even connected to the ceiling, sorry. But and then these hippos with the the splashing from their mouth. The splashing from their mouth. Wow, my English isn't. With the water spouting from their jaws. There, that's better. And that's just going to be the vibe of this section of the zoo, at least. These 18th century, 19th century. Have I been saying 18th century? Because it's 19th century. Designs, garden vibes, architecture first, animals second. But guys, that's already it for this little tour here. It turned out 6 minutes longer than my first recording. Please, Yelbu, be merciful to yourself and don't delete the footage within a couple of minutes of recording it. But that is the update on Sunset Gardens. You'll see me again next week for sure. I have a zoo that I've been eyeing for a while that I'm going to record a zoo tour for. That is for next weekend. Trust me, you're gonna want to see this one. And then I hope in 2 weeks time I can give you an update and we'll have fleshed out 1 or 2 sides of this side of the lake, or perhaps I will have built this crazy building. We'll see. I'm trying to ease the pressure off of myself in the run up to Plant Zoo 2. I'm going to continue to make videos like this, mostly for myself, because I like talking and I like talking to myself. And if you happen to enjoy that, then thank you for being here. I'll see you next week and all the weeks after that. And Yelbu out.